You're watching Through the Looking Glass with Dr. Jenny Klein.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jenny Klein, and I've missed you, so I'm back with a new show for us all. It's about our feelings, fears, and fantasies, our pain and our pleasure, our problems and our solutions. It's a time for us to get together, think things over, talk things over, and find out that we are not alone. Perhaps then we can all help each other make this world and our lives just a little bit better. Did you ever have the feeling that you have to do everything all at once? Let's take a closer look at just that issue. Hi, Kara.
Hi, Dr. Klein.
You look so stressed.
Oh, I am stressed.
Why?
Well, the reason why I called you is because I'm very anxious and I'm having problems sleeping. And I think the reason for that is because I just have too much to do and I can never get it done. I just can't get it done. No matter
what's going to happen to you if you don't do it all?
What's going to happen is I'm going to have to do it the next day. So I make lists and I have them compartmentalized into work things, family things, house things.
So in your head, it's all organized.
I try to get it out of my head. I've tried that,
right,
because I thought that maybe that was causing the problem, that I was constantly walking around, talking to myself.
Tell me something, Kara. If you take your list and you do the first thing on the list, do you feel good or do you realize the rest of the whole list is waiting for you?
Well, here's the problem.
Do you feel good if you do one thing?
No, because
Why?
I have compartments. I have this that I have to do, that, and everything has many...
I'm going to ignore that call, okay?
Many parts of it. So different headings, but many parts. And there are maybe 5 things that are number 1.
Mm-hmm. Now, I can't listen to you and get that phone at the same time, can I?
We'll ignore it.
But if I work, is it the same thing, like if your phone is ringing and you're in the middle of doing something, you have to finish what you're doing and answer the phone at the same time?
No, I'm better about that.
Oh, about the phone.
I'm better about the phone because I find that if I'm doing something, well, I don't know if maybe I have adult, what do they call that, ADHD? You know?
Attention deficit disorder. In other words, if you paid perfect attention to every single thing on your 2-page list, or if it's 2 pages, at the same time, then you'd be good.
I don't know if it's a question of being good, Dr. Klein.
No, but then you wouldn't be anxious.
I'm never finished anything. I find...
Wait a minute. If you do one thing and you finish it, isn't that finished?
I don't finish it. Here's what happens to me. I start something, I have all these things that I have to do.
So you leave one thing and go to the next.
Right. So I'll get up and I'll say, okay, I'm going to do paperwork. So I start doing paperwork.
And then you hear yourself.
Someone comes to the door and I get involved in that. Then the phone rings and I try to ignore that because I would get distracted by that, and then I would have to take care of that, and that would go on the list. Then I'd walk by my plants and I'd say,
right.
The plants need to be watered.
Okay, Kara.
I'd water the plants.
Kara, what you're telling me is that whenever you're doing something, there's some part of you that's saying you have to do the other thing and you interrupt yourself.
Yes.
Okay, that part of you is coming from a long time ago when your imagination, which is unlimited as a little child, could be here in Kentucky, on the moon, out the door swimming at the same time, because imagination has no limits, it's infinite. And that's coming from some way in which a parent talked to you And whenever you were doing one thing, they said, did you do the other things yet? Did anyone ever say, put your shoes on, get ready for school, eat your breakfast, clean up your room, make your bed, and as soon as you were doing one thing, they say, did you put your shoes on?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Well, I remember my mother used to say that, but,
What did she say? Now you tell me.
well, she would say, you know, you have to make sure your uniform is all folded, you have to make sure this is done, you have to make sure that is done. Did you polish your shoes? Did
And if you were
clean your
doing one
shoelaces?
thing, did she ask you, did you do the other thing?
Yeah, and it was never good enough.
Uh,
I never heard,
Are you not doing the same thing when you begin to do one thing and then your mind says, oh, I have to answer the phone, oh, I have to do this, oh, I have to do that? Like trying
Well,
to
I
do
didn't-
everything at the same time by interrupting yourself and going to the next thing on your list?
I don't know, because if I just walk by the flowers and I see that they need water in them, instead of worrying about it and putting it on the list, I say, okay, I'll just water the flowers.
What are you worried
so
about?
I walk by, I water the flowers, then I go in, then there's a couple of things in the sink, I clean
I get
that
it.
up.
I get that. What are you worrying about? Are you, when you're worrying, are you saying to yourself you should water the flowers or they're going to die and it's going to be your fault?
No, I don't say that to myself. What I'm saying is I have to do the flowers. Has to be done.
You're saying, I have to do that.
Right.
Well, didn't your mother, when you were doing one thing, said, did you do the other thing yet?
Right, because she was nagging all the time.
Okay, that means whenever you're doing one thing, she reminds you there's something else you didn't do. Where the only solution is imaginary, and that is you have to stop what you're doing and you should do everything at the same time. Then mother wouldn't nag you if it was all done now. That's an imaginary solution.
But my mother isn't here anymore.
Honey, your memories and whatever you wished you could do to make mother different, a power you never really had, was imaginary and said if I did everything at the same time, she wouldn't nag me. She wouldn't catch me in one thing
But
not
the thing is, no
done.
matter what I did, it was never right, so it didn't really
But now
matter.
you're saying the same thing to yourself every single time you interrupt yourself and run to something else. Because I feel bad if the flowers aren't watered. That means I'm putting myself down. The imaginary I is saying, here's something you didn't do yet. Just because you're doing something else is no excuse. You should do everything at the same time. And you keep putting yourself down for that and interrupting yourself.
See, my problem is, Dr. Klein, I end up with everything undone. You know, I start things and I have this going on, this project going on here, and then I have this project going on here, and then before I know it, you know, I've been working all day and I look and
it's not all done.
nothing is done.
Excuse me, that's not true. Nothing is not true. You did half of each task and ran to the next one, which means only half of it is done.
Right.
But you said nothing. If it ain't 100, you're a 0. If it ain't everything for your mother, you didn't do anything. Didn't you get that feeling?
It's funny, as you're talking, you know what I'm starting to feel?
What?
I had to shred some papers the other day because I cleaned out old files and, you know, a lot of bank statements and credit card, old receipts. And I was shredding them. And, you know, that just takes such a long time.
Yes,
and
it
I'm
does.
bagging it and doing it. And I just couldn't do it anymore. And when you're speaking, I'm starting to feel like this heaviness that
This guilt.
I have another box of them. If only I had done them, I would feel better that it
Who's
was
saying
all done.
that to you? You're saying that
Me.
to yourself?
Yeah.
Excuse
I
me.
have
Who are you
another box.
talking to?
I'm talking to myself.
That's 2 of you. Who is the I, the one who should do everything infinitely, immediately?
Well, I'm
As
just
a
thinking
child?
I would feel better if I didn't have that to do.
You would feel better if you stopped dumping on yourself and lower the expectation that you can't do everything at the same time. You can't do 100%, and you're not bad if you don't. But that's not the message you got from your mother, dear. That message doesn't die until you look up and say, hey, Shut up there. This is unreasonable. I am dumping on myself and not sleeping at night because I am putting myself down for not having done 100% instantly everything.
I wake up at night, I have a book by the side of my bed because I wake up at 3 o'clock and I remember that I have to do something, so I write it down.
So that you can feed the monster up there that you're being an obedient kid, listening to your mom, and you'll stop hating yourself if you just write it down. And then, even though you write all these lists, you're still beating yourself up at night.
I write it down so I don't forget.
Excuse me, you're trying to live up to everything your mother said. If you're putting on your shoes, they'll say, did you fold your uniform? I said, wait a minute. You know, a kid is going to solve a problem with an imagination that if I did everything at once, my mother would have nothing to scold me about.
But you know what, Dr. Klein, if that's true,
what self did you build up there?
Sometimes, and I never would tell anybody this.
Okay, tell me.
Sometimes I just say, screw it all.
Great.
And I leave everything like that, and I go make myself a sandwich.
Oh,
And
no.
I put on the TV,
Oh.
and I sit down in front of the TV, and I say, I'm not doing this.
Could you ever say that to your mother? Good for you. Did you ever say, because this is everything at once. It's impossible to do, and you'll always be waking up and writing things down because you forgot something.
But Dr. Klein, then I still have to do it.
No, the other guy, see, that time you rebelled against this infinite idea, this imaginary idea that if you did everything instantly, at the same time left nothing out, mother would shut up and stop telling you you're failing. It's you now that's telling you you're failing because that was your solution. It was an imaginary me that does everything all at once. And then the real you starts to rebel and say, I'm watching TV, I'm not doing this anymore. And you think you're a bad girl.
But I'll tell you that that person is angry that I want to forget things like other people forget things. I really, you know,
What person
my
is
family,
angry?
My family forgets. I ask, and I don't ask
Could you
people
express
to
your
do
anger
things.
to your mother?
Are you kidding?
That's right. So where's the anger coming from at 3 o'clock in the morning? Who
I
are
don't
you
feel
beating
anger.
up? Who are you?
I
Yes,
just
you woke
remembered.
yourself up, interrupted your sleep, and say, bad girl, write that down, make sure you do that tomorrow. You're doing the same thing to yourself your mommy did.
That's true.
Now, let me tell you something. The self we imagine up as a child, in the imagination there's no limits, so you could do everything at once, and then mommy would be quiet. That self works at a speed of 400 billion synapses a second. Your consciousness, your conscious mind only works at 12 or 13,000. That means that you're not even aware that that self that lives in that you created in your imagination as a child is dumping on you at a speed you can't even be aware of. But when you become aware, you can look up and say, I'm not doing anything now. I don't want to. I'll do a little at a time and that'll be good enough. And you say, I can't say that because the other guys can say, then you're a failure. It's either all or nothing.
See, I find that even, you know, I get into some problems with my family because if I ask, and I don't ask people to do things for me, I have a problem with asking people to do things for me.
Oh, because then you didn't do it all, did you?
No,
Then
I
you
don't
failed.
trust that they're going to do it, and lots of times if I ask my family, they forget. And I want to know, you know, I can't forget, so how come they can forget?
Well, they just didn't create what you created when they were a child.
So I'm thinking they're wrong in that they forget.
Is this the family you raised or your brothers and sisters?
Well, my brothers and sisters, they just didn't bother.
Oh, well, you were the one who's running around trying to do everything at the same time to keep your mother quiet.
They just didn't bother.
You know what I just thought of?
What?
Maybe your mother had the same problem and she was projecting it to you. She was saying, well, if she did everything she should do, then I wouldn't be a failure. I wouldn't have to do it. Maybe I should have everything done in the house. Was she a real neatnik?
Not really, but she was very capable. My mother was a very capable woman. She never thought she was very bright, but she was very capable. She had the meal ready, she had the clean sheets, she had all her stuff done. You know, she would
really?
get her stuff early and, you know, up early.
And she gave you the same
every
phone?
day she did her laundry and she put out on the line, she hung out the line, you know, the pink shirts,
Kara,
the pink shirt.
you're describing who you should be. You looked at your mother and you saw her being so capable, she does everything. And she gave you should do this, you should do that. Same way she was saying to herself, you should do this, you should do that. Everything was done. The meals, the laundry, the hanging up, the taking down, the folding. And she was giving you the same message because that was her solution in her life. She wasn't bright, but boy, she gets everything done. And she gave you her headache.
Well, she sure did.
Yeah. And it's not that doing things are
So
bad,
how come
but
they
everything
didn't
at
get
once
it?
is impossible. You're always going to be
How
waking
come
up.
I got that and they didn't get it?
I
My
have no-
brothers and sisters. How come, you know, my sister could sit there and, you know, walk over things. She wouldn't even think.
She had a different solution than you do. Your solution was, I'll do everything at once and Mother will never be picking on me and pointing things out that I didn't do. And I won't be hating myself for it. Your sister had, if I can't do everything, I'm not doing anything, so I walked away. Individuals have different ways of dealing with it. Some people are compliant and pleasing, like you, and your sister
I don't even like
walked
the way
away.
that sounds.
Why? Because you're so really angry. You don't want to be seen as pleasing and compliant.
Yeah.
Because that part of you that sits in the chair and says, I'm watching television all day and I'm not doing anything.
Right.
That's
But then-
anger from a lifetime
But then
ago.
I feel I have all this stress in me, and I'm saying, now look what I did. Now
Now,
I have to clean up
You're
this
just
dump.
hey, who is the war between? The one should do everything and the one who doesn't want to do anything.
Right.
You have a war between the perfect self you should be and the rebellious one who's angry and says, I'm not doing that. I'm choosing not to do that. First of all, you can't do everything at the same time. It's impossible. And secondly, you don't deserve to beat yourself up for it.
Well, actually, my daughter said to me, Mom, one day she was going out with me, and we had some errands to run, and we did everything in 45 minutes or less. And she said, you know, Mom, there really is something wrong the way you run around. You just do too much in a short period of time, and it's really not good for you.
Isn't that funny? From her eyes, you do too much. From your eyes, you didn't do enough. You wake up 3 o'clock in the morning and write it down. So there's two selves. That's the imaginary 100% in which if anything's undone, you're a failure. And there's the real self who's rebelling like heck. And you have to listen to that one and say, if you drop the everything, you'll have a reasonable life. But the everything is just going to make you madder and madder, and either mad at yourself for not doing it, or angry and rebellious, and then hating yourself for wasting a day. You didn't waste a day, you
So
fought
now
back.
what am I going to do?
Not everything.
So how do you decide what to do? And then how do I live with
If
the
you decide
stress
that
of
something is something, if it's not everything at the same time, which is impossible, you won't have to feel like you failed. You have to change your standard. That was an imaginary standard. You'll never live up to it. I'll tell you now. You have to be happy being a human being, not some imaginary person's going to solve your mother's anger, because it never would have anyway. She had the same problem.
But I don't do that to my kids.
No, because you love your kids and you don't even want to do it to yourself, because thank God you can get angry and say, I'm not doing anything today. Because you're rebelling against an impossible standard that's waking you up at night and making you an anxious mess, telling yourself you're a failure. Because your standard is imaginary. I'm going to do everything at the same time. I said, no, you're not. Everything takes time, and it's okay. I know that's a strange idea for you.
Yeah.
Well, I want you to go home and consider it, and we'll talk about it next week, okay? You have a war between the everything guy and yourself. It dumps on you and says, if there's one thing undone, you're bad.
So how do you decide what?
Try the word want. What do I want to do right now of this list?
If I said that, I would not want to do anything. I would like somebody to do it for me.
Okay. Well,
Once.
well, the thing is that you have to fight that war between that 100% self that's dumping on you, waking you up at night, and the real self. That's perfectly okay, because we're all real. Nobody's 100%. Sorry. It doesn't mean you're bad. It means you're real. You're still following your mother's messages. Doing to yourself what she used to do to you. You can quit that. That's something to focus on. Put that on your list.
Or what am I
On the-
list?
Put it on your list that I'm going to do less than 100% and like myself.
So, do 4 things on the list instead of the 5?
And be happy and say, good for you, you did 4 things. That's very good.
And then the other thing has to go on the list for the next day.
If you want to do them, yes. Put the things you want to do most. That's most fun to do.
See, that's what I don't understand. You know, the list. I don't want to do a lot of things on the list. You know, who wants to clean? Who wants to cook? Who wants to go shopping? Who wants to, I don't want to do any of that stuff.
Well, then.
But the reality is, this is life. This is what you have to do.
No, you're going to say, I don't want to do any, and then I have to do it all. There's something in between.
So should I get somebody else to do it?
No, if you don't want to cook, pick up some take-home. Pick up some prepared food. Ever occur to you? Because then you're bad, because you're not doing it all, right? You want to make it easy. You have to. Reality is, there's many ways to deal with reality. You don't have to cook 3 full meals like Mommy did all the time. You go and you pick up some pre-cooked vegetables, potatoes, and some meat. And you put it on the plate, and that's it. That's dinner. You're looking at me as if I'm nuts and bad and horrible and I'm cheating. And I'm telling you, you can't be less than 100%. That 100% is an imaginary self that you built when you were a child to please your mother.
So bringing prepared food would be better?
Well, when you say I have to cook dinner, that's reality. I have to make dinner. Well, I have to give people dinner. Fine, I agree you do. However, there's 2 ways to do that. Chop up all the vegetables, cook them all, stand in the kitchen till they're done, clean up the kitchen, or you go to the supermarket and you scoop out some potatoes and scoop out something from the prepared cooked foods and some meatloaf and take it home and put it in there and stick it in the microwave and you're done. Now, if sometimes you want to cook, fine. But if you think you have to always cook it from scratch, you're just beating yourself up for nothing. Because that's what Mommy would do.
And then I'm angry and I'm not happy about it.
Why don't you give yourself a little break and tell the guy upstairs, get off my back?
You know what my son said to me, one day?
What?
He said, Mom, serving dinner with a smile always tastes better.
Because if you're not happy, then serve it another way.
And I wanted to say to him, maybe if you made dinner once in a while, maybe
Well,
I would
that's what
smile.
Mommy did to you, honey. She did everything, but then she kept hounding on you. You have to fold your clothes. We have to get you to fold your clothes because I'm tired of folding your clothes. Now you're big enough, you fold your clothes. And she gave you the same absolute standard that she
So
had
is
to
it
herself.
almost that she thought that I was a part of her? That, you know...
She was just projecting that 100% over to you because she couldn't make her 100% quota. So she got you
So
to
it was
do it.
easier for her to do that to me.
Yeah. So you're going to do it to your son. You thought to get others to do it. Your sister had a different solution. She just didn't do anything. She just copped out of it completely.
Yeah.
Well, that's a problem because now she has to do something. She's going to, you know, she went the other 100%. I do 100% nothing. Okay. We're going to continue this. There's a war between the you think you should have been to please Mommy and get her off your back, and the you that you want to be, and that is, I only want to do this and I don't want to do the rest. I'll do part of it. That's okay, but you make a list, and then you rebel against it.
So what you're saying is, because I've been fighting with my family about this, because they're talking about how I never finish anything and my husband gets on my back and the kids, and I'm thinking, well, why don't you be doing something?
They don't understand.
So it's really not about
Okay.
them, it's about me.
I want you to go home and think about that, okay? And we'll talk next week. You give me a call anytime, okay?
Oh, I'm
All
so
right.
confused.
That's okay. Well, okay, I want to now introduce Carol Dorley, who is a wonderful therapist, and you are a therapist.
I'm in Somerville, New Jersey.
And in Red Bank you have an office.
Yes, I have an office in Red Bank.
Right,
also.
okay. That is why Carol has been able to do these shows and do them so realistically, because she has a very deep understanding of it, and that's why we bring it to you. So in case you're doing the same thing to yourself, just remember you can always give us a call and say hello, and I see you bopping around the supermarket, just say hello, and if you have an idea for a show or something is bothering you, just give me a call or get to my website, drjenny.com, drjennyklein.com. I'm talking to my camera guy, and drjennyklein.com, and he made it for me, and Kaz Beelan, and tell me what kind of show you'd like to do about what subject, and we'll do it for you, okay? You can give me a call anytime. The credits are right there. Grab a pencil. And be real good to yourself and just keep looking through the looking glass. Take care.
Dr. Jenny Klein would love to hear from you. Email her, jennyklein@gmail.com, or give her a call at 908-722-2933. If you'd like to see more, feel free, just go to drjennyklein.com.